Hey, what's up guys, this is Jack Tiong and welcome back to the 7th episode of Java tutorial video on this channel. In the previous episode, we have learned about the Java decision making statements, which basically allowed us to check a condition and execute one or more statements depending on whether the condition is true or false. Now in this episode, we are going to learn about the Java looping statements, which is a technique that is widely used in Java programming. With that being said, let's get started. First thing first, what is a looping statement? A looping statement basically allows us to execute one or more statements repeatedly for multiple times. And Java programming language actually provides us with 3 different types of looping statements, which are the while statement, do while statement, and lastly the for statement. The while statement will continually execute one or more statements while a particular condition is true, and it looks something like this, where we have the while keyword followed by the expression to be tested and lastly the statements that will be executed. Now let's take a look at this example where we would like to print numbers from 1 to 3 on the screen. The while statement will first evaluate the expression, and since I is less than or equals to 3, it will be evaluated as true, and the statements within the while block will then be executed. After that, the while statement will continue testing the expression and executing its block until the expression evaluates to false. Other than the while loop, Java programming language also provides us with another looping statement called the do while statement, which is basically the same as the while statement, and it looks something like this, where we have the do keyword followed by the statements to be executed, the while keyword, and lastly the expressions to be evaluated. Now the difference between do while and while statements is that the do while statement evaluates its expression at the bottom of the loop instead of the top, which means the statements within the do block will always be executed at least once. Alright, let's take a look at this example. Now assuming we have declared a variable named score with the value of 10, and we all know that since 10 is not less than or equals to 5, this expression will be evaluated to false, but the statements within the do block will still be executed at least once. Alright, next we are going to look at the third and last looping statement called the for statement, or better known as the for loop. The for loop statement will also iterate over a range of values and repeatedly execute one or more statements until a particular condition is satisfied, and it looks something like this, where we have the for keyword, initialization, condition, the increment or decrement statement, and lastly the statement to be executed. However, there are a couple of rules that we need to keep in mind if we were to use the for loop statement. The initialization expression will only be executed once when the loop begins, and what it does is basically to declare and initialize the loop control variable. The loop will be terminated when the termination expression, also known as condition, evaluates to false. And lastly, the increment or decrement statement is invoked after each iteration through the loop, and it is being used to increase or decrease the loop control variable. Now let's take a look at this example where we're gonna display numbers from 1 to 3 on the screen. Alright, so first thing first, when the loop begins, it will declare and initialize the loop control variable by setting I equals to 1. And since I is less than or equals to 3, the value of I will then be printed on the screen. After that, the variable I will be incremented by 1. And since I is still less than or equals to 3, the value of I will again be printed on the screen. This process will continue until the condition or termination expression evaluates to false. Other than the ordinary for statement, Java programming also provides us with another form of for statement, which is what we call the enhanced for statement. What it does is basically to allow us to iterate through collections and arrays, and the structure looks something like this, where we have the for keyword, the declaration, which is the newly declared block variable, and the type should be compatible with the elements of the array that you are accessing. The expression, which is the array that you would like to loop through, and it can be an array variable or a method call that returns an array. And lastly, the statements to be executed. One of the plus points of using the enhanced for statements is that it makes our loops more compact and easy to read. And according to the official Oracle Java documentation, they recommend us to use this form of the for statement instead of the general form whenever it is possible. Now it's okay if you don't understand the concept of collections and arrays at this point, as we are going to look into these topics in the later episodes. For now, I'm just going to show you a very simple example to get the idea of the enhanced for statement. Alright, so assuming we have declared an in-array variable named numbers that holds the values of 1 to 3. Now when the loop begins, the first element in the numbers array will be assigned to the block variable, and then it will be printed on the screen. And this process will continue until the system has looked through all the elements or items in the numbers array. In addition to that, Java programming also allows us to have nested looping statements, which basically means putting one loop statement inside of another. Alright, now that we have seen how the while, do while, and for statements work, we are now going to look at some of the branching statements, which includes the break statement and the continue statement. What these statements do are basically to allow us to change the normal flow of execution while we are working with the looping statements. The difference between these two statements is that the break statement will terminate the loop and transfer the execution to the statements immediately after the looping statement, whereas the continue statement will cause the loop to skip the remainder of its body and immediately jump to the next iteration of the loop. Now let's take a look at these simple examples where we're gonna print the numbers from 1 to 3 on the screen by using a for loop. When the loop begins, since I is not equals to 2, the value of I, which is 1, will be printed on the screen on both sides. No issues. But in the second iteration, where I is equals to 2, the break statements will immediately terminate the loop and transfer the execution to the statements after the looping statement. The continue statement, on the other hand, will cause the loop to skip the remainder of its body and jump to the next iteration of the loop. Alright, that's it guys. We have learned about the different types of Java looping statements, which includes the while, do while, as well as the for statement. And we have also looked at some of the branching statements, which are the break statement and the continue statement. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you like the video, be sure to hit on the like button, share it to your friends, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.